Hello everyone, and welcome to my B&B Spoilers 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Brooke Logan, whose emotional exhaustion and simmering resentment finally boil over during a tense gathering at the Forrester mansion, where Eric Forrester had hoped to bring everyone together for peace. Eric, believing that the family needed healing after weeks of betrayals, misunderstandings, and quiet hostility, invited Brooke, Ridge Forrester, and several others to sit down and talk honestly. For Eric, the gathering was meant to restore unity, but instead it becomes the moment that shatters his heart. The evening begins calmly, with Eric speaking warmly about family loyalty and forgiveness, reminding everyone that the Forresters have survived decades of turmoil. However, Brooke sits silently at first, her expression tense as memories of past betrayals swirl in her mind. Ridge notices her discomfort and gently encourages her to speak, thinking honesty might help them move forward. That invitation proves to be a catastrophic mistake. Brooke suddenly stands, her voice trembling but sharp with bitterness, and delivers 5 words that leave the entire room frozen in shock. "You destroyed this family, Eric." The words hang in the air like a thunderclap. For a moment, no one breathes. Eric, who had always defended Brooke and welcomed her into the family countless times despite endless drama, looks as though he has been physically struck. His shoulders sag, his eyes widen with disbelief, and the pain on his face is unmistakable. Ridge instantly rises from his chair, fury igniting in his eyes as he realizes what Brooke has just done. Eric has endured many insults over the years, but hearing Brooke accuse him of destroying the very family he spent his life protecting is a cruelty Ridge cannot tolerate. His voice explodes through the room with raw anger as he shouts, "Leave my dad alone." The outburst echoes across the mansion, startling everyone present. Ridge storms toward Brooke, his protective instincts overriding everything else. In his mind, no one, especially Brooke, has the right to attack Eric after all he has sacrificed. Eric attempts to calm his son, quietly insisting that Ridge sit down, but Ridge refuses, his rage still blazing. He reminds Brooke that Eric built the Forrester legacy, carried the family through scandals, losses, and betrayals, and never once abandoned them. Brooke, however, is not ready to back down. Years of buried resentment pour out of her as she argues that Eric's constant forgiveness allowed toxic cycles to continue. She claims his habit of protecting everyone, especially Ridge, created an environment where no one ever truly faced consequences. The accusation cuts deeply because Eric knows there is some painful truth in her words, yet hearing it spoken with such harshness devastates him. Ridge cannot believe what he is hearing. To him, Brooke's criticism sounds like a vicious attack on the man who treated her like a daughter for decades. His voice rises again, shaking with emotion, as he tells Brooke she has crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. Other family members watch in stunned silence, realizing they are witnessing a fracture that may permanently change the family dynamic. Brooke's anger continues to spill out as she insists Eric's leadership often prioritized loyalty over truth, allowing secrets and betrayals to fester until they exploded. She points out that countless relationships, including her own with Ridge, were repeatedly torn apart because the family refused to confront reality. Eric listens quietly, each word striking deeper than the last. The patriarch of the Forrester family has always prided himself on unity, and hearing Brooke claim his actions destroyed the family forces him to confront painful doubts he has long tried to suppress. Ridge, however, refuses to let Brooke rewrite history. He reminds her that Eric supported her during her darkest moments, defended her when others wanted to push her out, and welcomed her back into the family again and again. The argument escalates rapidly, voices rising as years of unresolved pain erupt into the open. Brooke insists she is finally speaking the truth everyone else is afraid to say, while Ridge accuses her of cruelly attacking an aging man who only wanted peace. Eric eventually stands and tries to end the confrontation, his voice soft but firm as he tells both of them that the argument is tearing the family apart. Yet the damage has already been done. Ridge's anger has transformed into something deeper, disappointment, heartbreak, and a growing realization that Brooke may never fully respect the man he admires most. He looks at her with a mixture of disbelief and sorrow, asking how she could say something so heartless to Eric after everything he has done for her. Brooke, shaken by the emotional fallout, begins to realize the impact of her words, but pride prevents her from apologizing immediately. Instead, she insists that painful truths must sometimes be spoken, even if they hurt. Eric, struggling to maintain his composure, quietly tells Brooke that he never intended to harm the family and that every decision he made was meant to keep them together. His voice cracks slightly as he speaks, revealing the deep emotional wound her accusation created. Rich notices the pain in his father's eyes and becomes even more furious, declaring that Brooke's bitterness has blinded her to the love Eric has always shown. The confrontation reaches a heartbreaking peak when Ridge tells Brooke that if she cannot respect Eric, she may no longer belong in the Forrester family circle. The statement shocks everyone, including Brooke herself. For a moment, she looks genuinely stunned, realizing Ridge's loyalty to his father may now outweigh his love for her. The silence that follows is heavy with tension and regret. Eric finally intervenes again, urging Ridge not to push Brooke away in anger. Despite the pain he feels, Eric insists he does not want the family divided further. His attempt at reconciliation, however, only highlights his kindness and makes Brooke's harsh accusation seem even more cruel in comparison. Ridge reluctantly steps back, but warns Brooke that some words cannot simply be forgotten. The emotional storm leaves the room in shattered silence, with family members exchanging uneasy glances as they realize nothing will ever be quite the same again. Brooke eventually tries to explain that her anger came from years of watching the family repeat destructive patterns, but her explanation struggles to repair the damage. Ridge remains distant, clearly wounded by what he sees as an unforgivable attack on his father. Eric, meanwhile, quietly withdraws from the conversation, the weight of Brooke's words lingering in his mind. The once proud patriarch suddenly appears older, as though the confrontation drained his strength. As the evening ends, the emotional fractures remain unresolved. Ridge escorts Eric out of the room, still protective and visibly shaken, while Brooke stands alone, questioning whether her honesty went too far. The explosive moment leaves the future of multiple relationships uncertain. Ridge must now decide whether he can forgive Brooke for hurting the man he respects most, while Brooke must confront the possibility that her anger has pushed Ridge further away than ever before. Eric, caught painfully in the middle, faces the heartbreaking realization that the family he fought so hard to keep united may be drifting further apart. In true bold and the beautiful fashion, the fallout from Brooke's 5 cruel words promises to ripple through every relationship, turning one shocking outburst into a dramatic turning point that could reshape the Forrester family for months to come. The emotional aftermath of Brooke's devastating accusation continues to ripple through the Forrester mansion, leaving every person in the room struggling to process what just happened. In the bold and the beautiful, moments like these define the fragile balance between love and loyalty that has always shaped the Forrester family. As Ridge Forrester escorts his shaken father Eric Forrester toward the sitting area, the tension in the room becomes almost unbearable. Ridge's anger still simmers beneath the surface, but now it mixes with deep concern. Eric's face has lost its usual warmth, replaced by a quiet sadness that Ridge rarely sees in the man he considers the strongest pillar of the family. For decades, Eric has been the one holding everyone together, offering wisdom, forgiveness, and patience even when the family seemed determined to destroy itself. Seeing him wounded by Brooke Logan's words strikes Ridge harder than he expected. Eric finally lowers himself into a chair, slowly removing his glasses as though the weight of the evening has become physically exhausting. Ridge kneels beside him, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. His voice is softer now, but still filled with emotion as he promises that Brooke's harsh words don't reflect the truth. Ridge reminds his father that he built everything the family has: Forrester Creations, the legacy, the unity that kept them strong through endless scandals and betrayals. Eric listens quietly, but his eyes drift toward Brooke, who remains standing across the room, visibly shaken by the intensity of the confrontation she sparked. For the first time since her explosive accusation, Brooke begins to truly see the damage she caused. Her anger had been fueled by years of frustration, memories of broken promises, and the painful feeling that the family often ignored problems until they exploded. But watching Eric sit there in silence forces her to confront a difficult reality. The words she spoke cannot simply be taken back. Brooke takes a hesitant step forward, as though she wants to speak, but Ridge immediately notices and stiffens. "Don't," Ridge says firmly, his protective instincts flaring again. "You've said enough tonight." The tension in his voice cuts through the room like a blade. Brooke stops where she is, hurt flashing across her face. For years, Ridge has defended her even when others turned against her. Now the roles have reversed completely. The man who once stood between Brooke and the rest of the family is now standing between her and Eric. Brooke finally finds her voice again, though it is much quieter than before. She insists she never intended to destroy Eric emotionally. She claims her frustration came from watching the same cycles repeat over and over. Betrayals forgiven too quickly, secrets hidden until they erupted into catastrophic drama. In her mind, Eric's desire to keep peace sometimes allowed destructive patterns to continue. Ridge shakes his head in disbelief. To him, Brooke's explanation sounds like justification for cruelty. He points out that Eric's kindness is exactly what allowed the family to survive decades of turmoil. Without Eric's willingness to forgive, Ridge argues, the Forrester family would have torn itself apart long ago. Eric finally lifts his hand gently, signaling Ridge to stop. Despite the pain he clearly feels, he does not want his son attacking Brooke on his behalf. Eric has always believed family arguments, even painful ones, should eventually lead to understanding. But tonight the road to that understanding seems far more difficult than usual. Eric speaks quietly, his voice carrying the calm authority that has guided the family for years. He tells Brooke that he knows she has been hurting for a long time, and he does not doubt that her words came from genuine frustration. However, he admits that hearing her say he destroyed the family felt like a knife to the heart. Eric reminds her that every decision he made, every time he forgave someone, every time he tried to reunite the family, came from love. Brooke's eyes fill with tears as she listens. She had expected anger, maybe even shouting, but Eric's calm disappointment hurts far more than rage would have. Slowly, she approaches the sitting area, careful not to trigger another explosion from Ridge. Her voice trembles as she finally admits that she might have gone too far. But Ridge is not ready to forgive. His loyalty to Eric runs deeper than anything else in his life. Even hearing Brooke begin to apologize does not erase the image of his father's devastated expression when those 5 cruel words were spoken. Ridge stands up again, pacing across the room as he tries to control his emotions. He explains that Eric has spent his entire life protecting the family, sometimes even sacrificing his own happiness to keep everyone together. Ridge remembers countless moments when Eric could have walked away from the chaos, but chose instead to fight for unity. Hearing Brooke accuse him of destroying everything he built feels unforgivable. Brooke responds that she never questioned Eric's love for the family. What she questioned was whether that love sometimes blinded him to the truth. She reminds Ridge of the countless secrets that festered inside the Forrester circle, affairs, betrayals, lies that were quietly buried until they exploded. In her mind, those cycles caused years of heartbreak that might have been avoided if the family confronted problems sooner. Eric sighs softly, acknowledging that the family's history is filled with painful mistakes. But he also points out that forgiveness is the reason they are still standing. Without it, the Forresters would have lost each other many times over. As the conversation continues, the emotional intensity slowly shifts from explosive anger to heavy reflection. Other family members who witness the confrontation remain silent, aware that they are watching a pivotal moment unfold. Everyone understands that the relationship between Brooke, Ridge, and Eric may never be exactly the same again. Brooke eventually turns directly to Eric, her voice fragile but sincere. She admits that her frustration with the family's endless drama built up over time until it exploded in the worst possible way. She confesses that she regrets the cruelty of her words, even if some of the feelings behind them were real. Eric studies her face carefully, searching for honesty. After a long pause, he nods slowly. While the pain remains, he recognizes the sincerity in her voice. Eric has always believed people deserve a chance to make things right, but Ridge remains conflicted. Even if Eric is willing to forgive Brooke, Ridge cannot forget how deeply those words hurt his father. He tells Brooke that trust is fragile, and tonight, she shattered something that may take a long time to rebuild. The room grows quiet again as everyone processes Ridge's warning. Brooke understands that her relationship with Ridge now hangs in a delicate balance. Their love has survived countless storms in the past, but this one strikes at the heart of Ridge's deepest loyalty, his devotion to his father. Eric eventually stands up, determined not to let the argument destroy the family completely. He insists that they all need time to breathe and reflect before making any final judgments. The emotional wounds are too fresh for anyone to see clearly. Ridge reluctantly agrees to step away, though his eyes remain cold when he looks at Brooke. Without another word, he helps Eric toward the door, determined to make sure his father is okay. As they leave the room together, Brooke watches in silence, realizing just how much damage her outburst caused. For the first time that evening, the mansion falls completely quiet. Brooke stands alone in the center of the room, replaying the moment when her anger took control. She remembers Eric's expression of shock and heartbreak, and the memory fills her with regret. In classic bold and the beautiful fashion, the confrontation marks the beginning of a new emotional chapter rather than the end of the story. Ridge must decide whether his love for Brooke is strong enough to overcome the pain she inflicted on his father. Eric must balance his desire for family unity with the emotional wounds he now carries. And Brooke must find a way to prove that her apology is more than just words. The fallout from those 5 devastating words continues to echo through the Forrester family, threatening to reshape alliances, relationships, and loyalties in ways no one anticipated. One thing is certain: the emotional scars left behind by this confrontation will not disappear overnight, and the path toward forgiveness may be far more complicated than anyone expected. The night ends with a heavy silence hanging over the Forrester mansion, a silence that feels louder than the argument itself. In the bold and the beautiful, moments like this rarely fade quickly, and everyone in the family knows the emotional shock from Brooke's outburst will echo long after the evening is over. As Ridge Forrester helps Eric Forrester outside to get some fresh air, the cool night breeze does little to ease the weight pressing on both of them. Ridge keeps glancing at his father, worried by the quiet sadness he sees there. Eric has always been the steady heart of the family, strong, forgiving, and patient even when chaos surrounded him. Seeing him wounded by Brooke Logan's cruel words shakes Ridge more deeply than he expected. Eric eventually tells Ridge that anger will not solve anything tonight. Despite the pain he feels, he refuses to let the conflict destroy the family completely. He reminds Ridge that families survive by finding their way back to each other, even after terrible mistakes. Ridge listens, but the hurt in his eyes remains. For him, Brooke crossed a line that cannot simply disappear with a quiet apology. His loyalty to Eric has always been absolute, and hearing someone accuse his father of destroying the family felt like a betrayal that struck at the core of everything Ridge believes in. Inside the mansion, Brooke stands alone for several minutes, replaying the confrontation in her mind again and again. The words she spoke in anger now echo painfully in her memory. At the time, they felt like the truth she had been holding inside for years. But now she can only see the devastation on Eric's face and the fury in Ridge's voice when he shouted, "Leave my dad alone." The realization that she may have damaged her relationship with both men weighs heavily on her heart. Brooke finally sits down, staring out the window toward the dark garden. She knows Ridge better than anyone, and she understands how fiercely he protects his father. If Ridge believes Eric was deeply hurt, it may take far more than a simple apology to repair the damage. Brooke whispers to herself that she never intended to destroy the family bond. She only wanted the truth to be acknowledged. But tonight, she may have spoken that truth in the cruelest possible way. Outside, Eric gently reassures Ridge that he will recover from the emotional blow. Yet he also admits that Brooke's accusation forced him to confront painful doubts about the past. Eric wonders quietly whether his lifelong desire to forgive everyone sometimes allowed problems to grow instead of healing them. Ridge quickly insists that his father's compassion is what kept the family alive for decades. As father and son walk slowly back toward the house, the future of their family feels uncertain. Brooke must find a way to prove her remorse is genuine. Ridge must decide whether love can overcome loyalty and anger. And Eric, the man who built the Forrester legacy, must somehow hold the fractured family together once again. One explosive moment has changed everything, and the emotional consequences are only beginning.